What is beauty? What is it that makes any object appealing to the eye? In design work, we divide the factors that contribute to beauty into three fundamental elements. Beauty of line and form, the shape and proportions of an object. Beauty of detail and decoration, the little touches of ornamentation that emphasize beauty. And beauty of material, the texture and color of the various surfaces. Those are the elements of beautiful design. But beyond them, true beauty has two important characteristics. It is functional, as the design of this plane expresses its ability to fly high, fast, and far. And it is timeless. This gown would have been as beautiful 200 years ago as it is today and will be tomorrow. Measured by all these standards, the 1953 Nash Air Flight is far and away the most beautiful American motor car, and with very good reason. For it was designed by Pininfarina, the world's most distinguished designer of custom cars. So now, let us analyze Pininfarina's air flight design in terms of the principles of beauty and in comparison with other new cars. First, and very basic, line and form. And one glance tells you that there is no other car with such functional, timeless beauty of line. Notice the long, clean sweep of fender from massive headlight to massive tail light, a line unbroken by unsightly wheelhouse openings. And notice the low, flat hood nestling between high, easily visible front fenders, and the clean-cut continental verve of the rear-end styling, which is a joy to behold. Yes, here is a car that beautifully expresses its true function, that, even when just standing still, conveys the urge to move swiftly forward. Compare the lines of this car with, for example, the newest Dodge, with its bulging high-crowned hood, its old-fashioned wheel openings, and its conventionally rounded top and back. Or compare it with the Chrysler, a new car that still retains the same static silhouette. There is no feeling here of motion as there is in the brilliant Farina design. The same is true with any American car you choose. By comparison with the Nash Air Flight, they all lack functionally graceful styling. Even those which have endeavored to develop lines of some distinction are, like Packard, marred by such elements as conventional wheel openings, separate rear fender treatment, an overabundance of chrome, and general fussiness of detail. Contrast this with the clean, pure detail and trim of the new Nash, the deft touches that dramatize the fundamental beauty of this car. There are many fine little accents, like the cut-back rear window pillar, which adds to eye-level visibility, as well as supplying a dashing touch of continental style, and the extruded aluminum window frames, which are both beautiful and useful, since they serve to reduce blind spots, and the fascinating cut-down panel along the doors, a touch of sheer genius that suggests the low-cut design of the finest European sport cars. And the door handles themselves, compact, streamlined squeeze-type handles that are so convenient to use. And the beautifully styled hood ornament, the figurehead of this lovely car, which gives full expression to the car's function of surging forward in swift, smooth flight. And the wide, massive single-piece grille that frames the distinctive Nash crest, and that so well points up the sleek, low width of this car. Then there are bumpers and bumper guards of rugged simplicity, expressing strength and protection in every line, and massive eye-filling taillights that are beautiful because they, too, are properly proportioned, highly visible. And notice that the gasoline filler tube is protected and concealed by the right rear taillight, unlike most other cars, where the gasoline intake is left out in the open, marring the appearance of the body. Inside the new Nash, equally careful thought has been given to functional detail. Beautiful hardware has been designed to make opening doors and windows wonderfully easy. Like the accessories of a beautifully gowned woman, lights, ashtrays, cords, and armrests have been tastefully styled in the modern manner and placed for greatest usefulness. And the instrument panel is a breathtaking example of timeless beauty and utility. Notice the unifying sweep of the crash pad, and above this, the graceful cowling that houses the instrument group, radio controls and clock, each placed for greatest convenience and, therefore, greatest beauty. Notice, too, the smooth contours of the underside of the instrument panel, unmarred by dangerously projecting knobs. And the steering wheel is the final touch of usefulness made beautiful through purity and simplicity of design. Finally, let us consider our third element of beauty, the color and texture of the surfaces of this car. For these too have received the most painstaking study. The exterior is, of course, a combination of massive areas of deeply lustrous baked enamel, sweeping sheets of crystal clear glass, and tasteful accents of glittering chrome, smooth finishes suggesting great speed. And Nash offers a scintillating assortment of 26 different single and two-tone color combinations, rich deep-tone decorator colors in lustrous blues, greens, maroons, and grays, and lighter, brighter pastels in gay ivories, rusts, greens, grays, and blues, a combination for every mood, every personality. And for the interior, there's a wondrous assortment of rich fabrics in many colors, weaves, and textures, from elegant Bedford cord, needlepoint, and homespun to genuine buff grain leather. These rich fabrics combine with exquisite tailoring to produce interiors that express nothing so much as sheer, soul-satisfying luxury. Yes, there's beauty, pure beauty, in this motor car, from the viewpoint of the professional designer as well as the driving public. The genius of Pininfarina has given this car everything that makes an object beautiful. It is a car whose graceful lines express perfectly its function of swift, luxurious travel. And it has the quality of timelessness, for this car will be as thoroughly satisfying to the eye in the years ahead as it is today. In very truth, today or tomorrow, you will find none as new as Nash, and none so truly beautiful.
I'm speaking for Nash Motors, and today I want to talk to you in a quite different way about Nash air flight construction. Now, we all know that air flight construction has proved itself time and again through billions of miles on the highway. Nash has had it in their production cars for 12 years now, and Nash engineers were working on it for a good many years before that. Now, during all those years that Nash has had air flight construction, you've been told a lot about it. For example, You've been told that it's like a steel truss bridge, with every body member supporting part of the stress. And its 8,000-odd spot wells have been compared with the most modern railroad car construction. Its lightness and durability have been compared with the newest and finest in aircraft design. You've been told that air flight construction combines the frame and body in one solid, all-welded unit. Unlike ordinary construction, where body and separate frame are merely bolted together. And you're familiar with the fact that this girder-built design has twice the resistance to twisting that ordinary cars have. All this has been said, and you've heard it discussed over and over. But today, let's take off the kid gloves and give a specific answer when someone asks,
just what does air flight construction really give the owner of a Nash?
The answer to that question can be stated in one important word: safety. Nash is the safest car on the road. To prove that, here is evidence that cannot be denied. The great number of letters that have been written by Nash owners who know exactly what air flight construction means to them. Here's what they say. Air flight construction is a life-saving device. It is the factor that let these people live to write these letters. For instance, here's one from Mr. William K. Carter of Honey Falls, New York. Mr. and Mrs. Carter were riding in their Nash when, in his own words, here's what happened.
On the 22nd of January, a car skidded broadside down the road at us, and we hit it head-on at about 40 miles an hour. This resulted in $810 of damage to the front end of my car, but all the damage was at the front. Other than that, not a pane of glass was broken. There was no racking of the body. Both doors clicked open and shut with no binding. We're convinced that any other car would have folded up and killed us both. My wife and I are alive today because of air flight construction. Nobody can make us believe otherwise.
Feeling as he does, it's natural that Mr. Carter is still driving a Nash. Here he is with his new country club. Now, let's look at another letter. This one is from Alice Leonard of Mingo Junction, Ohio.
Enclosed is a photo of my golden air flight Nash, 3 months old. My life was saved in this car. I was hit by an ore transfer train weighing 140 tons. You know, they say Nash is the only car that could have saved my life. Since my accident, I've purchased another Nash. I like it very much.
And so the story goes, with Nash owners everywhere. Here's a letter from Mr. Frank Snyder of Belvedere, California, who wrote about his experience.
Last week, I hit an obstruction on a slippery road, lost control of my car, struck some railroad tracks, turned over twice, and came to upside down. The damage to my car was enormous, yet I escaped with only a slight bruise on my shoulder. I can't begin to say enough about the marvelously solid construction of your product. I've seen slighter accidents cost life and limb. I'll never have any other car than Nash.
And for one more typical example, let's listen to this letter from Mr. Arthur S. Hargett of Baltimore, Maryland. Mr. Hargett ran into trouble on a misty, rainy morning in August.
I was rounding a curve when suddenly I was flagged down by a state policeman protecting the scene of an accident. In the excitement, I ran off the road and turned over about 3 times. But I got out of the car with only a few scratches. I just thought this letter might add to the fact that Nash is constructed to bear the terrific blows that come to a car, and that for security in the event of an accident, there is no better construction. It helped save me, and you can rest assured that I'm grateful to Nash, and forever intend to be a Nash owner.
Well, there are hundreds more like these, but I think that's enough to prove the point. Air flight construction, all steel, all welded, rugged, durable, is more than a design that's years ahead. It is, in fact, life-saving construction. For the man, the woman, the child who rides in a Nash air flight, rides safely, protected by a fortress of steel. They can ride with supreme confidence in the fact that for 12 years, Nash has proved there is no safer body design than air flight construction.
I'm Herschel Buchanan. I make my living on the racetrack. With a good car, it can be a good living. Last year, I entered 51 stock car races. I won 13 of them, finished second 17 times, and third 10 times, all in a Nash Ambassador. So for my money, the Nash Ambassador is the world's finest stock racing car, as well as a great performer on the streets and highways. You see, the Ambassador has always been built to really take punishment and really dish out performance. But let me tell you, the new 1953 Nash Airflight Ambassador tops them all. Believe me, it's a wonderful car. And I'll tell you why. The Ambassador's engine, the Super Jetfire, is a real power plant designed just for the Ambassador, put together like a precision watch, and it's an entirely proved design. The 6-cylinder overhead valve design that Nash has been so successfully developing and refining for the last 36 years. For 1953, Nash has retained the engineering features which have made the Super Jetfire the rugged, efficient, dependable power plant it is. There's Nash sealed-in manifolding that gives a racing driver like me just what he needs. Quick warm-up, even fuel temperature, even vaporizing, and even fuel distribution. And full-length water jackets that defeat the worst enemy of the racing driver, overheating and hot spots. And full-pressure lubrication that pumps plenty of oil to every moving part. And believe me, that's important under the high-speed pounding an engine takes in a race. And that fully counterbalanced 7-bearing crankshaft. It makes that engine just as smooth at 4,000 RPMs as it is at idling speed. Then there's that fine direct draft carburetor. The smooth, efficient flow of fuel mixture it provides means instant response and high power output at any speed. On top of all this, the Jetfire has a high compression ratio of 7.3 to 1. And that's important to any driver because it means squeezing the last ounce of power from every drop of gas, and regular gas at that. All this adds up to a horsepower rating of 120 and a torque rating of 220 pounds-feet. Plenty of power, sensible power for a car of the Ambassador's weight. This terrific power plant combines with air-flight construction, which makes the Ambassador as much as 1,500 pounds lighter than some other big cars, to give you a car with a lot of go. A car that consistently outperforms cars with higher rated horsepower and higher price. And I ought to know. Actually, this performance is not surprising. You see, performance is not the result of horsepower alone. It is the result of torque delivered at the rear wheels in relation to car weight. That is, the higher the torque and the lighter the weight, the snappier the performance. That Nash has solved this formula in a very sound way is proved by the fact that the Ambassador with Hydromatic will go from a standstill to 60 miles an hour within 3 4/10 seconds of the time required by a car with 180 horsepower. And that should be good enough for anybody. Now, in 1953, the Ambassador still offers 3 transmission options. The standard 3-speed synchro-mesh transmission, the smooth, economical overdrive transmission, and dual-range Hydromatic, that fine automatic transmission that practically does your driving for you. But that's not all. For 53, the Ambassador offers a couple of really great new options. Power steering. Yes, safe, sure, direct-acting hydraulic steering that does the work, that lets you cramp the wheels around for parking or turning with only light fingertip pressure. But there is more, still more. Do you know that for those who really want more than the last word in performance, Nash now offers as an option the Ambassador with the amazing Ambassador Le Mans dual Jetfire engine. This is the powerhouse originally designed for the Nash Healey, that consistent winner of rugged European road races, races in which no other American engine has done nearly so well. The Ambassador Le Mans dual Jetfire engine not only has all those other fine Jetfire features, but also twin carburation for even more efficient fuel distribution, and a special power squeezing head that increases the compression ratio to 8 to 1. This Le Mans dual Jetfire engine is properly named because of its outstanding accomplishment in the grueling 24-hour race at Le Mans, France. Well, that's about it. You may feel that I'm pretty well sold on the Nash Ambassador. Frankly, I am. Without hesitation, I can say the 1953 Nash Airflight Ambassador is not only the world's finest stock racing car, it's the world's finest family car, because it's the most dependable luxury car on the market today, because it ranks at the very top in all-round performance on streets and highways, and because there's none so new as Nash in 53.
I'm Lucky Lee Lott, and I'd like to tell you why we chose the Nash Statesman for a business where we give cars the most brutal beating you can imagine. You see, in the daredevil driving business, the only way to make money is to drive dependable cars. Cars that not only take the roughest punishment day in and day out and come back for more, cars that are always ready when the show must go on, but cars that need very little maintenance and upkeep. We've tried all the best, and I know the car that fills that need is the Nash Airflight. And right now I'm talking particularly about the Statesman. In past years, this has always been a real fine car, but I had the biggest thrill of my life the first time I drove the 1953 Statesman. Talk about performance and dependability. Believe me, Nash has really come up with something. Listen to this. For 53, the Statesman has a new engine, the Powerflight. This engine has been stepped up from 88 horsepower with 150 pounds-feet of torque to 100 horsepower with 155 pounds-feet of torque. A real power package. And what a jackrabbit that Statesman is now. For example, in standard third gear, the new Statesman goes from 10 to 60 miles an hour in a second and a half less than the 52. That may not sound like much, but look at it this way. When both cars have reached 60 miles an hour and leveled off, the 53 is 132 feet in front of the 52. The comparison is even more startling in overdrive, from 30 to 60 miles an hour in nearly 6 seconds less than the 52, and a lead of just about 500 feet. This means 22% greater acceleration at these speeds than in 1952. Furthermore, the Powerflight boosts the Statesman's top speed up to nearly 7 miles an hour faster than last year. That's real performance, and it's all been done without increasing the bore or stroke. An engineering achievement. How has it been done? By a number of startling design changes. For instance, there's a brand new dual-flow carburetor, a double-barreled one with 2 throats, each feeding the fuel-air mixture into the isothermal intake manifold. Here, in one carburetor, are many of the benefits of dual carburation. More uniform fuel distribution, giving more power, greater acceleration, and even more gasoline economy. To handle the mixture from this carburetor, the intake manifold passages have been made bigger for faster fuel distribution. Along with that, all the valves have been made larger to permit a greater rate of intake and exhaust. And the combustion chambers have been newly shaped to give better efficiency at higher compression ratios. The exhaust system has also been redesigned to make sure that burnt gases are quickly and efficiently expelled. And the camshaft lifts have been increased to make this engine more efficient at high speeds. Finally, Nash has been able to make the Powerflight's compression ratio a high 7.45 to 1. And that's really up there where power and economy pour out of every drop of gas. Those are some of the changes that make it possible for this engine to deliver 100 horses. Of course, the Nash engineers have retained the features that made the former Flying Scot such a dependable, efficient power plant in the past. The basic 6-cylinder L-head design that's been proved perfect for the Statesman for so many years. The sealed-in manifold that does away with the old hotspot manifold and does such a terrific job of warming and distributing the fuel mixture. The full-length water jackets, a top feature that controls engine temperatures so perfectly. full pressure lubrication, pumping plenty of oil to every moving part, and waterproof ignition that makes the Statesman start quickly and run smoothly in the sloppiest weather. So there's the Power Flight engine for 53. 100 horses worth of smooth, dependable, economical power. With this engine, Nash again offers 3 transmission options. The standard 3-speed synchro mesh, the smooth, economical overdrive, and the unequaled dual-range hydromatic. These 3 transmissions combine with lightweight, rugged air flight construction and with the new 100-horsepower Power Flight engine to make the 53 Statesman the perfect car for daredevil driving. Perfect because it has these qualities: low operating costs on both gasoline and oil, low upkeep costs, long life, high dependability with very little adjustment or repair, and high performance. Jackrabbit getaways with smooth, effortless, high-speed cruising. Those are the reasons why I wouldn't have any other car for my Stunt Stars show or for my personal use. Treat yourself to a driving demonstration and you'll know as I do. There's none so new as Nash for 53. And for anyone who wants the size, the comfort, the riding qualities, and the performance of a high-priced car, combined with the all-around economy of operation and upkeep that you get in a low-priced car, this 1953 Nash Airflight is the finest Statesman ever built.
I sure like my Nash, but I wish that salesman was as interested in me after I bought it as he appeared to be while he was selling it to me.
I don't know too much about the mechanics of my car, so I expected the salesman to tell me. Why, he didn't even know how much oil it's supposed to hold.
I know Nash is a good car, but that's no excuse for them to act like they were doing me a favor by selling it to me.
Yes, we bought a Nash, but we almost didn't. It was that salesman. We thought we liked the car, but he wouldn't leave us alone long enough so we could come to a decision. He talked too much, even contradicted us. If the sales manager hadn't stepped in, we probably wouldn't have bought.
Sure, I like it. Well enough, I'll probably get another one next year. From the same salesman, too. He calls up from time to time. Takes such an interest in me that I call him my automobile consultant.
These were actual statements from recent Nash buyers. Remarks received from a survey of Nash buyers, a matter of record, which showed some important facts about our selling. We found that over 60% of our owners reporting were given demonstration rides before they bought. Not only does this prove that demonstrations are important to prospects, but that any presentation made without at least an offer of a demonstration has less than a 50-50 chance of success. In addition, we know that 3/4 of all owners had the car operation carefully explained upon delivery, and a slightly smaller amount also received an explanation of the service policy. That's good. But listen to this. Only 40% of these new owners who, after all, are responsible for our incomes, were later thanked or even contacted after the sale. That, of course, is unfortunate because the owner, when he has a prospect lead, has no reason to remember a salesman when the salesman failed to remember him. Now, we've been talking about a survey of people who did buy. What about the others? The people who didn't buy our cars. Why didn't they buy when their very presence in a sales room indicated at least some interest? Many salesmen will claim that insufficient allowance or too great a money difference was the greatest reason why those prospects they lost didn't buy. But if they'll truthfully analyze the reasons, they'll recognize some of the things Nash found in these records of actual sales contacts in actual Nash sales rooms with actual Nash salesmen. Let's examine some of them. What's first? Now, there's our first prospect, Mr. A, entering a Nash sales room. Naturally, this isn't the real sales room or the real prospect, but everything that happened to him is an actual matter of record.
You say you'd like to see an ambassador? Well, I've got some in the service department. Follow me. There you are. 3,200, just as it sits.
What do you mean, as it sits? Do you mean with accessories, Mr.
Yes, hydromatic, radio, heater, foam cushion, Solex, glass, and direction signals. All for 3,200. What are you driving?
50 Ford. It's right outside if you'd like to look at it.
Good, let's go. I'd say 800. Yes, I can allow you 800 for this car. How about it?
I don't think I could afford it. At least not with all that equipment. If I could get it without some of it, well, how much would I save by leaving some off?
Look, mister, when you make up your mind just what you want on the car, come back and see me. I'm not giving out prices on individual accessories.
The way that prospect was treated, is it any wonder he drove away? Maybe the salesman had a bad night or an argument with his wife. Or possibly he's just gone stale, has repeated and repeated his story so often that even though he knows better, he cuts corners. But it can't be done. Instead, every prospect must be talked to as if the salesman is telling a brand new story, one he's never told before, because to prospects, it is a new story. Successful salesmen have been compared to successful plays, like Gaby's Irish Rose, which played 2,327 times on Broadway, and each performance was as new-sounding as opening night. We know salesmen are human, have their ups and downs like anyone else, but unfortunately, salesmen have to be actors, have to suppress unpleasant emotions, and at least appear to be enthusiastic. If, for instance, this salesman has benefited from his unsuccessful experiences, he will handle prospects for the 1954 Nash line differently. He'll forget his cigarette and come forward eager to please and be friendly. Then, he'll be able to introduce himself and probably get the prospect's name, too. Then the prospect won't have to ask his name. And while walking toward the car, he could pleasantly qualify him, find out what particular features interest him in the car. With this sort of qualifying, he would present those features in terms of the prospect's interests, rather than simply rattling off a list of equipment and a price. With this kind of presentation, beamed to the prospect's interests, the all-important demonstration ride could be arranged, probably right on the spot, while the prospect is still hot. Upon returning, the trade-in could be appraised not on the basis of so many dollars for the trade, but only so many dollars for the new Nash. Of course, he would not refuse to quote accessory and equipment prices after the customer specifically asked for them, because that is not good selling. Instead, he should sit down with his prospect, go over the equipment and its benefits, and then help the prospect by selling the equipment the prospect can handle. And now, let's examine another incident. Again, one that's a matter of record. Now, there's the prospect. We'll call him Mr. B. And there's the salesman, pointing out a statesman to the prospect. Apparently, he is particularly interested in the engine.
I'm glad you asked about this engine, Mr. B. You know, Nash has always been known to produce an engine that combines performance and economy. And, of course, you want both. Look here. This engine has a built-in exhaust pipe cast right into the block. That helps performance, you know. And not only that, but it has a 7-bearing crankshaft. That gives you more horsepower. And if you look down here...
Pleasant enough, salesman, but as you'll agree, with a serious fault: lack of product knowledge. This prospect was given the wrong information about the Statesman engine. In the first place, Nash engines are famous for sealed-in isothermal intake manifolding, which means better performance because of more uniform temperature control. But no Nash has ever had an exhaust pipe sealed inside the engine. And of course, it is the Ambassador Super Jetfire engine which has the exclusive 7-bearing crankshaft, not the Statesman. And this does not give greater horsepower, but a smoother running, longer life engine with less vibration. Of course, the salesman should have read his data book more carefully. It would have given correct information about everything in all Nash engines. He'd better be sure to read it this year, because the 54 Statesman has a new engine story that's really big news. The dual power flight as standard equipment. Let's hope he sells it this way.
This year, the Statesman engine combines the reliability and economy it's always had with really terrific performance. Let's lift the hood. There. See those dual carburetors? They mean a more even flow of gas to all cylinders, a lot faster pickup, and yet it retains that traditional economy for which the Statesman is so well known.
But I'd always heard that dual carburetors are a lot of trouble, always getting out of adjustment with each other.
In some early dual carburetors, that's right. But they were of the hot rod variety. But here is an engineered linkage between the two by a company with considerable experience with dual carburetors. Remember, thousands of dual carburetors have been in daily use in our Le Mans Ambassador and in the Nash Healey. You'll have no trouble. And look what else it has. An aluminum head. Aluminum permits a higher compression ratio in this engine, 8.5 to 1. This means more horsepower and performance.
But are you sure it won't take more gas?
Only if you really step on it. Make every start a jackrabbit start. I'll admit with an engine like this, it's a temptation. But it's up to you. If you drive the way you're used to, with sensible starts and generally at cruising speeds, you'll get better mileage than any car of comparable size. But I've been talking a lot about performance. Let's take one out on the road and prove it. I want you to get the feel of this car. Besides, there's a lot of other features I want to show you.
Get 'em into the car, and you're heading into the sale. That's what the owner survey proved, remember? It's a matter of record. Now, so far, we've talked about one kind of sale, where the prospects have been kind enough to let you know they're in the market for a car simply by walking through the doorway of your sales room. However, there are a lot of other prospects, too. People who don't fully realize they're in the market for a car until some alert salesman lets them know they are. They are contacted by planned outside prospecting. Prospecting of people who could logically be considered hot prospects. And when do you do this? Anytime you aren't busy with someone on the floor. At those times, you should be on the phone, lining up demonstrations. But whom do you call? Well, certainly not everyone in the book or on a certain street or anything like that. Instead, you should organize your plans to include your previous buyers. Your own records will tell you which of the people you've already sold might be getting to the point where they should trade cars. And then there are the service department records, which give the names, addresses, and phone numbers of additional owners who are likely prospects. Other sources are in the expiring finance contracts. When a customer's payments run out, better get to him before the fur coat salesman or television man does. He's going to spend that money on something. Of course, friends of your recent buyers should also be contacted. The owners will probably be glad to give you their names if you've taken an interest in them after they bought their car. Even people you failed to sell before might be ready to buy the next time you try. Here's how a failure might be turned into a sale.
Mr. Maurer, this is Jim Foote of Central Nash. I tried to sell you a Rambler a while back, but I didn't make it. As I remember, you liked the car, but thought you needed more back seat room. Well, now I've got a new four-door Rambler. One with all those things you liked and a good big back seat. How does that sound?
Well, I'll drop around in a few days and you can tell me about it.
Well, I don't want to talk about it. I want to prove it. Can you spare a few minutes now? Good. Do you mind if I come right over?
Too fast moving? Too much action? It's fast, all right. But maybe this kind of action will lead to a sale. After all, the prospect did like most of the Rambler features. And now, by showing that big, roomy back seat on the 108 wheelbase, Jim's been able to answer the principal objection he had before. Of course, he reminds his prospect of other features he liked. The Continental tire mount that makes the entire trunk available for luggage. And since he's at the prospect's house, it's the perfect opportunity to get the whole family into the car for a demonstration. And as we know, a couple of lively kids can be the best assistants a Nash salesman could ever have. Could help push their dad over the brink of decision, where signing the order is his only relief from the pressure of his whole family wanting the new car. Yes, the prospects who walk into the sales room are only part of the prospects you can have, if you'll plan to find the others. Remember, surveys prove that most buyers had to go to a sales room, had to take the initiative when they wanted a new car. Had a competitive salesman contacted them first, he might have had the order. Also, surveys prove that most people, including previous Nash owners, do not buy until they've had a demonstration. So a presentation without a demonstration does not assure the best chances of a sale. Surveys prove that prospects want and expect courtesy, attention, and interest. If they don't get it, they won't buy. It's a matter of record. And here's one last important point. Surveys prove that the Nash salesmen who do treat their prospects properly, who do follow up their prospects and their owners, and who go outside for new leads are the same salesmen who consistently have good Honor Club records, who work up the biggest percentage of successful sales. So, think about it, act upon it, and watch your income grow. Remember, this is fact, statistical fact, a matter of record. Hello. I'd like to spend a few minutes talking to you because I've got a story I think you want to hear. It's about the new Metropolitan, and I'm sure you're excited and enthusiastic about it. If you've already driven it, you certainly are. If, on the other hand, you haven't, well, you better get the keys and drive it because you're really missing a thrill. You know, it's a Nash. And the very presence of the Nash nameplate means it's well-built, attractively styled, a good performer, and sensible from a service standpoint. Now, there are some very interesting things about this car that a casual glance might not reveal. Since you're going to be selling the Metropolitan, we'd like to tell you about some of these things. They'll help you in your selling, bound to. So concentrate on these mechanical details. Not only because the Metropolitan is different from any other car, but because a great many prospects for a car of this type will be mechanical-minded enthusiasts who'll appreciate and be interested in superior mechanical construction. Let's first consider the enclosed front wheels, the Continental tire mount, and the distinctive grille, which all identify the Metropolitan as a member of the Nash family. And the three-piece wraparound rear window treatment lets you see exactly what's behind. Particularly valuable when backing into a tight place. And of course, you can get into tight places with a short wheelbase of 85 inches and the overall length of only 149.5 inches, making this an extremely maneuverable car. Now, just look at the thickness of this door. That's because passenger safety is vital. And this door gives you a clue to the way the whole car is built, with unitized air flight construction, the same all-welded single-unit construction you've been selling in the Ambassador, Statesman, and Rambler series. A cutaway view shows the foundation for this car's structural rigidity. All body and frame members welded to form a single unit. Indeed, this type of construction on the short wheelbase
allows the convertible model to be made without overhead structural rails. Also visible from the underside is the famous Airflex front suspension, the same type used in all Nash cars. Not only does this give an amazingly smooth ride, but the positioning of the long coil springs directly over the wheel makes cornering firm and safe, gives the driver perfect control at all times. Not only that, but this suspension system allows caster and camber to be built in. The only adjustment ever required is the toe-in setting. And still another safety factor is the hydraulic brake system, designed to give maximum braking with little pedal effort because each front wheel brake uses 2 cylinders, actuating the brake shoes so both take equal advantage of the rotation of the wheel to provide smooth, effortless braking action. And remember, the brake linings are permanently bonded to the brake shoes. If new brake linings are required, factory bonded brake linings and shoes are obtainable. And this is important. The Metropolitan is designed to American specifications, for American drivers, for use on American roads, by an American firm, up to American standards of safety, comfort, and, yes, performance. For underneath this hood is one of the finest power plants ever placed in a car of this type. A 42 horsepower Austin engine, modified and engineered to American standards for the best combination of durability, performance, and economy. And here it is. Notice the compact design, how the engine offers complete accessibility. Now, this matter of accessibility is important, as many prospects for this type of car are tinkerers, men who like to do their own servicing as a hobby. Notice that the engine is the overhead valve type, the same kind that's made the Ambassador engine such a respected power plant. The advantage of this system is maximum power and operating efficiency from a given displacement because of freer fuel entry into the combustion chamber. The Metropolitan is equipped with a 3-speed standard shift synchro mesh transmission, not a transmission with 4 forward speeds. In fact, the only reason so many smaller cars use 4-speed transmissions is that they're so underpowered that a 3-speed transmission won't get them going fast enough. So the driver has to constantly down and up shift as he goes through traffic and around corners. Now, your prospects may wonder if a 4-cylinder car will be smooth enough. You should tell them that the type of counterbalanced crankshaft used in the Metropolitan engine, as well as the use of rubber engine mountings properly located, results in exceptional engine smoothness. Now, another engine feature which will be new to your prospects is this fuel pump primer. Most of us don't run out of gas once a year. But if we do, we may have trouble getting started again after refueling. But with the Metropolitan, all you do is pump this primer a few times and you're ready to go, without the risk of running down the battery trying to pump gas with the starter. And speaking of pumping gas, this tube is a deflooder, a relief tube for quickly and automatically draining the carburetor of excess fuel in case you should accidentally flood it. The carburetor itself uses a manual choke, but with a unique automatic throttle pickup linkage to speed up the engine when it's choked in order to eliminate stalling. Now for the electrical system. Your Metropolitan uses a 12-volt electrical system instead of the usual 6-volt system. The use of a 12-volt system offers many advantages to the owner. Better starting in cold weather due to increased cranking speed, higher generator output for electrical accessories, and improved ignition performance. Because of the 12-volt system, you'll notice a different type of starter switch located here in the engine compartment. This higher voltage switch is actuated by a pull-type control, conveniently located on the instrument panel. But while we're still discussing under-the-hood details, notice this rubber hose, the valve cover ventilator hose, which draws fumes out of the valve cover into the air cleaner by the vacuum of the engine. This ensures added ventilation of the crankcase even when the engine is idling for long periods of time. And here's an economy feature, the cooling system, with a capacity of only 7.5 quarts. Since it is also a pressure system, operating with 3.5 to 4.5 pounds of pressure, only a minimum amount of antifreeze is needed for maximum protection. For instance, an economical $2.37 worth of permanent antifreeze for zero protection. Water is circulated by a pump through holes of restricted size at the front of the block, which force water to the rear and then back to the front. Now for economy. The Metropolitan has averaged as high as 41 and 57/100ths miles per gallon in a controlled 24-hour non-stop test under ideal conditions. During this NASCAR supervised test, not 1 quart of oil or a drop of water was added, and no adjustments or repairs were needed. Now, let's consider some other mechanical features that a prospect can't see without disassembling major components. Here is the head itself. It's of an extremely hard and durable cast iron, and it is not necessary to use valve seat inserts. The design of the head is such that cooling water is close enough to the seat to quickly dissipate heat, giving long life operation. Now, the valve rocker arms are drilled to permit lubrication to the push rod sockets and onto the valve stem tips. This is a very important feature, one not even found in all higher-priced overhead valve engines. This oil cushion reduces annoying valve tappet noises. And here's an interesting feature, a hot spot valve in the exhaust manifold to preheat the intake fuel for better economy. Now let's consider the pistons. This cut in the cam ground piston makes it a split skirt type, just as is used in our finest Ambassador engine. It allows the piston to compress, giving quiet operation without piston slap. Each piston uses 4 rings, the compression rings tapered so only a small surface contacts the cylinder wall, and the 4th, or oil wiper ring, well ventilated so excess oil returns through the ring, through holes in the piston to lubricate the piston pins on the way back to the crankcase. From here we move to the connecting rods, so designed that the load on the bearing cap is not taken on the rod bolts. Still another feature for quiet, smooth engine operation is the timing chain for valve operation. Not only is the chain itself quieter than a gear drive, but valve timing remains correct longer because there is less wear in a chain drive. Now, something your technical-minded prospects may be interested in, the steering linkage. Considerably different from most cars because it's located farther back. This positioning of the linkage does not interfere with the car's favorable road clearance. Also, for the technical-minded, is the rear axle design, a 3/4 floating type, in which none of the weight of the car is carried by the axle shaft. The differential carrier can be removed without removing the axle assembly, and it is the hypoid gearing type. And there is also an easily accessible jack provision, which raises the car at the sides rather than at the bumpers, lifting front and rear wheels with little effort. And another feature for convenience is the door operation. Push to unlock controls on the outside and handles that lift to open on the inside, preventing accidental opening. Still another convenience feature is an electrically operated windshield wiper motor, which maintains constant speed even when the engine is under heavy load. And now, don't forget the accessories, standard equipment items which on other small cars are either not available or available only at extra cost. First, of course, are directional signals, visible from both the front and the rear, and of course, self-canceling. Others are a cigarette lighter, dual sun visors, and foam rubber front seat. These all help in making a selling comparison with other cars. In fact, whatever the yardstick, style, economy, performance, safety, service accessibility, or special features, the Metropolitan measures up. So when you present this car, be sure you know all about these features and be fully prepared to tell them to your prospects. Know your data book. Read your question and answer book. Use the catalogs to accent the points you make. And of course, the one best way to sell the Metropolitan is to get your prospect seated right here, driving this car, after you first demonstrated it by driving yourself. Just seeing the sporty, compact lines of the Metropolitan makes a prospect very curious about it. Just knowing about some of the mechanical and convenience features that you can point out makes a prospect appreciate its design and craftsmanship. But actually driving the Metropolitan makes anyone, you, me, or your prospect, actually want to own this amazing car.
Nash for 1955 introduces a whole new measure of motor car value. The new Nash for 55 with its 7 big customer benefits, 7 big differences that appeal to the buying public in 7 different ways and give dealers and salesmen 7 exceptional sales opportunities. And they are in every car in the line. However, let's look at them in terms of the great 1955 Ambassador and Statesman. Benefit number 1, increased body strength and durability, greater safety, quieter, because of elimination of body bolt squeaks and rattles, thanks to Nash's exclusive double-strength, single-unit body construction. Benefit number 2, a better, smoother ride, because of Nash's exclusive deep coil spring suspension. Benefit number 3, more living room for Nash owners and passengers. More leg room, headroom, hip room, and shoulder room in both front and rear seats. Benefit number 4, greater visibility because of the widest windshield and the widest rear window in the industry. Benefit number 5, greater travel comfort thanks to Nash's airliner seats that can be adjusted or reclined for any body position or made up into comfortable twin travel beds. Benefit number 6, all year-round driving comfort in hot weather or cold, on dusty roads or clean, thanks to the new improved all-season air conditioning system or the Weather Eye heating and ventilating system. Benefit number 7, amazing new maneuverability with Nash's short turning radius and new improved steering mechanism for ease of handling. And all these benefits are wrapped up in the most smartly styled cars on the road. Models for every price class, body styles for every taste, in a complete array of fresh color and upholstery combinations. Yes, a brand new style for 55. The beautiful new look that Ward's Auto Report has predicted could be the style sensation of the year. Yes, the styling that has already won public acclaim in previews and at major auto shows across the country. Here's the one car that is truly different for 1955. The car that answers the complaint of experts and the public when they say that most new automobile designs look like a tipped-over jukebox on wheels. Unlike other 1955 cars, and completely unique, is the new Continental design Nash front end, with new road guide fenders and the new safety view headlights relocated in the grille. The low position of the headlamps has a real practical advantage. A greater concentration of light ahead, greater efficiency under foggy and rainy conditions, because, like fog lights, they are close to the road, where there is less chance of bounce-back glare. The styling of this beautiful new grille was inspired by the fabulous Nash Healey, accepted as one of the world's most beautiful cars. Besides adding to the beauty of the car, the graceful forward dip of the front fender line is embellished by the parking and directional lights, which are located in the fender's leading edges. These fender lights remain on with the headlights, serving the dual function of parking lights and running lights. The rakish flare of the road guide fenders are emphasized by a sculpture line highlighting the custom styling that characterizes Nash for 1955. And here is one of your big aces, the Nash Scenoramic Windshield, which goes the current styling trend one better. It's the widest wraparound windshield on any car for the greatest visibility and safety, and it has the least distortion at its outer ends. Your customers will appreciate the wide, low hood line, which, in addition to its smart simplicity, provides unsurpassed forward vision. Blending perfectly with the new Scenoramic Windshield is the practical Weather Eye air intake, pioneered by Nash, now being copied by others. Both front and rear wraparound bumpers are completely new. Simplicity and unusual strength are their keynotes. The bumper guards are strong and massive. When you take your customers around to the rear of the car, point out the world's widest rear window with the new massive chrome upper reveal molding that gives the window and roof section a bright new look of years ahead styling. Let's open the door and let the customers take their first exciting look inside. Let's make sure that they notice that these doorways are not just like others. They're wider, as wide as the doors at home, so they will not bang their knees on the bottom of the windshield post. Once inside, let them gaze at the new instrument panel, whose beauty complements the car's exterior styling. Show how the sweeping lines of the windshield have carried through the panel and into the doors to provide a feeling of spaciousness. All instruments, including the new Weather Eye control, are within easy eye reach, set off by their brilliant chrome moldings. The upper surface of the panel is a resilient foam safety pad, harmonizing beautifully with the interior trim. Beauty and safety benefits combined. In fact, the customer's forward view will reveal many wonderful features. The glove drawer that pulls out, not spills out. The dual acoustic radio speakers, the handy pack carrier, transparent sun shield visors, and the overall harmonious blending of these features. Let your customer look around. Does he notice the extreme roominess, the exciting new upholstery materials, striking new trim styling, and complete color harmony combined to provide a very powerful selling story, especially where women buyers are concerned? Okay, everybody set? Time to get moving. Time to let this daring new idea in motor cars do a little demonstrating. You turn on the engine of the Ambassador Jetfire V8, the newest and finest overhead valve V8 engine in the entire industry, coupled with a famous twin Ultramatic transmission as a complete power package. Here is performance and power to meet your prospect's most exacting requirements. 208 mighty horsepower, giving high torque and performance at all speeds. It has a bore and stroke ratio that's nearly equal, giving maximum efficiency and minimum power losses due to friction. The valve mechanism is designed for the maximum in quiet operation and long life. Rocker arms are extra heavy, and the valves are operated on a noiseless cushion of oil by hydraulic valve lifters, and valve guides are an integral part of the cylinder head casting. There is no separate insert to prevent heat from quickly dissipating itself. Valve stems stay clean. Valves run cooler, last longer. The combustion chamber was designed after thousands of test hours to determine the shape that would provide maximum fuel mixture turbulence for quick, efficient burning without the roughness found in many V8 engines. Yes, Nash power is smooth, silent power. Another reason is the crankshaft, a precision steel alloy casting, completely surrounded by massive main bearings on each side of every power impact, giving the same smooth performance that our famous Ambassador 6 engine has delivered for years. As a matter of fact, the total main bearing area of the Nash V8 is larger than that of either the Cadillac or the highly publicized top-of-the-line Chrysler V8s, eliminating crankshaft whip or vibration. Also traditional with Nash is an engine that's easy to service, free of the clutter that makes simple jobs like engine tune-up or even the changing of spark plugs difficult on many V8s. The transmission is the fully automatic twin Ultramatic, offering all of the most wanted transmission features. Smoothness of shift, effortless, and so quiet you hardly know it's operating. And with cruising economy, attainable by a lock-in to direct drive once cruising speed has been reached. Yes, The Ambassador Jetfire V8 engine, coupled with the famous twin Ultramatic transmission, offers a complete power package designed and engineered exclusively for each other. And with new, bigger brakes in the Ambassador and Statesman models, your prospects can make those sure, safer stops in the shortest possible distance. As you move ahead, your customer would soon become aware of the ride that's different, softer, more sure-footed, smoother, and more solid, with all that exciting roominess we spoke about. That's one of the big benefits of Nash's double-strength, single-unit body construction. Designed for greater strength, safety, and quietness, the new and modern way to build an automobile, a rigid single unit, like today's streamlined trains and jet planes. Not in two pieces that can only be as strong as their weakest connections, as you find in conventional cars. To achieve roominess, conventional cars merely elongate their frame outrigger supports, thus weakening their basic body structure. Torsional or twisting rigidity, as well as bending rigidity, is what engineers call it, both among the most important features in car construction. And Nash has these features because Nash has double-strength, single-unit body construction. Torsional and bending rigidity is that super amount of strength that keeps a body from twisting and bending with road shocks, which weaken it so that soon the car becomes loose-jointed and noisy. But that can't happen with Nash, the car with safety built in. For Nash has the perfectly engineered body in one self-bracing unit, which is rigid in the way any strong car body should be rigid, but absorbs shocks with the least possible danger to the car's occupants. Here is a photograph of a Nash taken immediately after an accident, in which the car sheared off a telephone pole and then overturned. Notice how the front end of the car absorbed the main blow, resulting in comparatively little damage to the rest of the car and no serious injury to its occupants. Doors could still be opened, windows raised and lowered. It is more than possible that a standard frame body in the same kind of accident would have been twisted almost beyond repair, and passengers would have suffered serious or fatal injuries. Notice, too, in the Nash, the heavy frame structure completely surrounds the passenger compartment and reaches forward on each side of the engine to protect from collision shock. And here is an interesting fact. The 1955 Nash body is the strongest on the road, stronger even than the 54 Nash. For example, the 1955 Nash is more than 40% stronger than the 1955 Buick. Yes, Nash's safety benefits add up to some mighty important sales ammunition. Because of the unitized body construction, Nash can do things with its suspension system impossible on other cars. And the result is the deep coil ride, the ultra-soft vibration-free ride that results from the extra-long coil springs that cradle the Nash body like a hammock between them. These high springs put the center of gravity and car weight between and below them instead of above them as in other makes. Nash's C-leg spring mounting further prevents side sway, especially on sharp curves. Notice, too, how the Nash coil springs are mounted directly above the steering bearings and not inward from the bearing as on conventional systems. What does that mean in terms of comfort? When the springs are mounted inboard, the steering arm becomes a lever, and the wheel, as it hits road bumps, exerts a lever action against the spring, compressing it more easily than if the spring were out near the wheel itself, and in time causing a bend in the suspension arm. To provide anything like a good ride, competitive springs have to be harsh, with less give, less built-in comfort. See how many pounds per inch these springs must exert? Compare these springs to the longer, softer springs in Nash, mounted where the shock is felt first, near the wheel. Here the arm exerts no lever action with no bending, and the springs can be much more pliable and shock-absorbing. Notice how few pounds per inch, almost 1/3 less, the Nash springs have to exert to keep the car properly suspended. A softer springing arrangement, soft because it is engineered that way, means a softer, more enjoyable ride. Another thing, Nash not only has coil springs in front, but also in the rear. All around, coil springs mean a more balanced ride. All springs can be kept in tune, so to speak. That is, approximately the same degree of soft cushioning action exists at all 4 wheel points in the new Nash car, not just in front. One of the biggest selling points, one of the biggest benefits, especially when Mrs. Customer is present, is the unequaled living room of today's Nash. More headroom, more leg room, more hip room. The Nash is big inside where it counts. In fact, according to the specifications from the Automobile Manufacturers Association, Nash tops the entire industry on front seat width, and most other cars fall far short of Nash in roominess front and rear. Again, let us say that this roominess is no accident, but the result of Nash's exclusive single-unit body construction, which does away with unnecessary makeshift bracings and supports. Strength is built into every line of the Nash. We can afford to be roomy. That roominess is also evident in the trunk space, a full 17 1/4 square feet of floor area and over 22 cubic feet of total capacity. Nash has the greatest all-round linear visibility of any car on the road, the kind of visibility that allows the driver to see all around him, the visibility that really counts. When you park the new Nash, for instance, you practically have vision unlimited, thanks to that low hood and high fenders, and to the widest windshield and rear window in the industry. You can see more of what lies ahead and behind. And safety in bad weather as well as good. For the Nash windshield wipers make sure that this wide visibility shall be an all-weather benefit. Instead of merely clearing away the conventional peephole area, Nash wipers move in a wide sweeping action that cleans around the curve and gives the driver the most extensive range of all-weather linear visibility of any motor car. Nash wipers clean 600 square inches of the 1,100 square inch windshield area, a real challenge to competition. Headlight placement close to the road where the light belongs to prevent bounce back from fog is another important visibility factor. More and more, in ever-increasing numbers, customers are greeting the new Nash as the all-purpose, all-round family car. And why not? With airliner reclining seats and twin travel beds. Touch a lever and either front seat goes back gently, one notch at a time, into 5 restful positions. These are seats that allow passengers to ride comfortably in a semi-reclining position. Seats that are not just reclining, but adjustable for comfortable driving positions. Or that can be a comfortable chaise lounge on long trips. Or seats that can also be a posture chair, more comfortable than the ones at home. Seats that can be used as twin beds for family travel. No more worries about motel vacancies. Beds that allow sportsmen to sleep where the best game can be found. Or that allow naps without stopping. And a bed that turns the Nash into an emergency ambulance. Furthermore, Nash seats are built around coil seat springs, recognized everywhere as the ultimate in comfort. Long coils, sag-free, coated with rubber for quiet, comfortable support. But now, suppose the weather turns cold. You're ready for it with a new Nash Weather Eye heating system. Thermostatically controlled heat for living room comfort. Fresh air enters the car above the fume-laden road level and is filtered through replaceable fiberglass filters. This clean, fresh air prevents fogged windows on even the coldest wet days. The Weather Eye is the greatest comfort and health feature ever put into an automobile, pioneered by Nash and still superior to any heating system in the industry. And if the weather turns hot, all-season air conditioning provides the same pollen-free, dust-free, fume-free air, but cooled for perfect comfort. The all-season air conditioning unit, instead of taking up valuable trunk space in the rear, is placed up ahead of the instrument panel, a position pioneered by Nash, allowing a natural flow of air backward through the car, not striking the passengers on the back of their necks. And the price is just $395 installed on Ambassador and Statesman models, hundreds of dollars less than any competitive system. All-season air conditioning is a perfectly engineered single system designed to deliver complete air conditioning in the summer, thermostatically controlled heat in winter, and year-round fresh air ventilating. Maneuverability, another big benefit with the 1955 Nash. The amazing handling ease of this new car on sharp turns, over rough roads, on sweeping curves, in the country or in heavy city traffic. It takes a lot of things to make a car easily maneuverable. You have to see where you're going, and that's part of the great Nash visibility story. you have to have an engine with plenty of power and quick response. And that's part of the big new Nash Power story. And you have to have a car that steers easily, handles smoothly in and out of traffic, parks in those tight spots at the touch of a finger. One of the main reasons for Nash's easier steering is here in the front suspension. Unlike the systems of other cars, the Nash steering knuckle pivots on anti-friction bearings, a ball thrust bearing and twin needle bearings, which produce a brand of effortless steering formerly undreamed of. No wind wander or weaving action in the new Nash. Yes, there's the Nash story for 1955. The story of 7 exclusive benefits, 7 advantages that put you and the customer ahead of any competition 7 different ways. Nash's strong single-unit body construction. Nash's better ride with deep coil suspension, more living room for the driver and all of his family. Better visibility, front, side, and rear. Airliner seats and beds for the biggest comfort story on the modern road. Heating and cooling that leads the field. All-season air conditioning. Performance and economy and maneuverability second to none. But that is not all of the story you have to tell. Optional power brakes to improve the even greater braking effectiveness of the 1955 Nash. Optional power steering to improve the already easiest steering in the industry. And optional power windows, adding to the many other conveniences of these great new cars. That's a great product story for you to tell, because it's a convincing story, the most convincing one you've ever told. And you can prove it. Just get those prospects inside the new Nash, and you're in the best possible selling position, because here you can make the car do a lot of talking too. This is your car. This is your new Nash for 55. This is your golden opportunity. Step up to it, man. It's all yours. Double strength, single unit body construction. This emblem, mounted right where the prospect can see it when he opens the door, tells him that this is a body of which Nash is proud. Tells him that this is a body worthy of his interest and questions. But of course, we know that others too identify their bodies with names, but there is a big difference. While the names on other cars simply tell where they are made or who makes them, the double-strength single-unit tag tells how this body is made. It is a tag announcing a method rather than a manufacturer, a concept rather than a company. You, as Nash salesmen, are aware of this big difference. You already know about the pioneering of the Budd Company in developing all-welded railroad cars and buses, faster, lighter, and infinitely safer one-piece vehicles that revolutionized the transportation industry. You also know how the airplane industry was able to make planes bigger, stronger, and of course safer by the use of similar construction methods. And you probably have heard how nearly every American car manufacturer would use this superior automotive construction method, introduced by Nash late in 1940, would, if it were not for the millions of dollars in retooling costs involved. They would for good reason, too. Because this method, the exclusive American Motors method, is the only important automobile body development since the advent of the all-steel body itself. In fact, this is the only method that can possibly give you all of the strength, all of the safety that is so desperately needed in today's automobile. You see, as highways become faster, as cars become more powerful, there is an ever-increasing interest in safety on the road. Not only among drivers themselves, but among professional organizations dedicated to protecting the lives of people who drive. Yes, these things you know, and more important, you know that the body of this car you sell is superior, does offer these advantages. You know because you understand this body. But, and let's be realistic about it, the Nash double-strength single-unit body story is not easy to tell to a prospect because there is little difference that he can see just by casual observation. On the surface, the 55 Nash appears to be built like any other quality car, but appearances do not tell the whole story. Actually, this name tag means that this Nash is an infinitely stronger car than others, will stay new longer, will not quickly develop annoying squeaks and rattles. It also means that this car will definitely offer a smoother ride, smoother even than the most expensive and heaviest cars you can buy. But most important, it means that this car is safer in the event of a rollover or a collision from any direction, straight ahead, side, or rear. The problem from a sales standpoint is showing the prospect proof of this superiority. Superiority that he can see and feel and want, even before he has his demonstration ride. Luckily, much of this body benefit story can be shown to an interested prospect as you go around the car in your regular presentation. For instance, most prospects want to hear the engine story, want to know what goes on under the hood. So, while the hood is up, why not tell a body story too? Because many of the differences between Nash double-strength single-unit body construction and other methods can be seen and appreciated when the hood is up. For instance, the inside fender well structures, the walls of the engine compartment, so to speak, are entirely different from all other cars. Different, actually, because they are a part of the body. In most cars, the body ends at the firewall. Everything in front of that point, the engine, fenders, and so forth, are either hung on to the body by bolts or are rested through brackets on frame members which extend forward. Frame members which are not part of the body. In the event of a front-end collision, these frame members are apt to bend upward and back. If the collision is hard enough, the engine might be shoved right into the passenger compartment. In Nash, however, fender well structures are welded to the firewall and are welded to the framing channel members under them. They are definitely parts of the body structure, and they are strong. The heavy gauge steel you can see is only half of the story. There is another structural layer of steel under them. On other cars, you'll find only thin sheet metal serving as a splash shield. Want proof? Take a hammer and hit this structure. Then do the same thing to the splash shield of a competitive car. This means safety, protection for the passengers, rigidity for the entire car. If a Nash should become involved in a front-end collision, the structural channel members and welded fender inner structure would absorb the blow. The passengers would be protected. And here's something else. Notice the shape of this structure, the curves and beads pressed into it. This shaping of the metal adds to strength and rigidity. Just as a curved or irregularly formed piece of sheet metal resists bending or twisting, while a plain one of the same weight does not. But another reason for the contour is the famous Nash deep coil ride and sea-leg type of suspension, which is made possible only with this kind of body construction. You see, even though you're looking under the hood, you're actually looking at the top seat of Nash front springs. Springs of other cars are low, way low, actually resting on the lower suspension control arms. Spring action is limited because the springs must be short. In the Nash, however, high-mounted springs mean long, soft-acting springs with more spring action than others. But there are other advantages to this spring location. First, Nash springs are direct acting, work directly upon the wheel to carry directly the weight of the car and to absorb the road shocks taken by the wheel. On other cars with non-direct spring action, the springs must absorb the same road shock in about 2/3 the spring length that Nash has. This means that road shocks are actually multiplied, are increased as they get closer to the frame or body. Since the non-direct action springs must react within a shorter height, they are stiffer and more harsh than the longer, softer Nash springs. On other cars, the control arms must carry part of the shock to the frame, and thence to the separate body of the car. You see, on cars with old-fashioned construction, the control arms carry much of the weight of the car. Also, Nash high-mounted springs distribute the weight of the car throughout the entire heavy inner fender panel, shaped so triangles of force spread the car weight over a large area. On conventional cars with separate body and frame, all the front end weight is shared by the two limited hookup areas between the control arms and the frame itself. Another advantage of the Nash spring position is in cornering, turning without the danger of tipping over. The geometry of the Nash suspension and steering system makes this possible. You see, on other cars, the weight of the car is thrown to the outside of the car easily because the springs are mounted considerably closer to the center of the car. However, on a Nash, the far out position of the springs substantially reduces this action, gives greater safety because of a wider distribution of the weight. This is what we mean by sea-leg suspension. The weight is distributed over a wider base, just as a sailor spreads his legs to offset the roll of his ship. Nash suspension is part of the body story because only the double-strength single-unit type of body construction allows the space and support for positioning the suspension system in this manner. Now, it's true, not everything in Nash is welded. There are bolts visible from under the hood. Fenders, for instance, are bolted to the inner panel assembly for easy replacement. It is only the inner welded panel that is a structural part of the body. Also, this top cross member is bolted to permit easier service operations, and it is a structural part of the body. Yes, a great deal of the superior Nash double-strength single-unit body story can be proved by looking under the hood. But this story can be made even stronger by opening the rear deck lid to show the trunk. Every prospect is interested in luggage space, so while you're showing this spacious trunk, be sure to point out the X braces, welded, rugged structural members that strengthen the body and give protection in case of a rear-end collision. And while you're looking at it, point out the shock absorber towers. Their very contour adds strength to the rear quarter of the body. But the biggest difference you can see in the trunk is the wall of the trunk itself. This is a wall of steel, welded to and an integral part of the double-strength single-unit body. On other cars, this is merely a panel of light metal. Actually, it is only the fender panel and not part of the body structure. Now, there are some things you can't actually see, but you can tell about them. For instance, at the back of the trunk is a structural channel member running all the way across the body, a part of the actual framing. On other cars, there is no crosswise framing member at the extreme rear end of the frame for protection and strength. The lengthwise frame members end just behind the spring supports. Yet this framing is vital protection, life-saving protection. Actually, in a Nash, passengers are completely surrounded by such channeling on all sides, protected by structural steel, not just by body paneling. When you open the door, for instance, make sure your prospect notices the sill he steps on as he gets into the Nash. On most cars, this is simply the old-fashioned running board brought inside. Its strength? Well, find out for yourself. Tap this area with a hammer. The sound will tell you that it's merely lightweight sheet metal. On a Nash, you'll get a much different, much more solid sound. Here's why. The Nash passenger is actually stepping on the outside framing member of the car, made up of not one, not even two, but 3 steel box sections, welded together. Now, other cars do have such members, but because they're part of a separate frame, they're located much closer to the center of the car, where they can't give much protection. Actually, about 12 inches in from the outside of the car. They must be positioned this way because a separate frame, only bolted every so often to a body, twists and bends, very much like a metal baking pan. This is the distortion that makes such cars eventually squeak and rattle. Narrowing the entire frame lessens this bending, but offers no protection to passengers sitting next to the windows. To hold up the body, which extends beyond such a narrow frame, Special brackets go out from the frame and are riveted to the body to hold it in position. The framing members of the Nash, on the other hand, extend to the very outside of the car for two reasons. One, as you can see, is that there are actually two sets of framing members, an inner and an outer box framing section. But the most important reason is that Nash framing members are an actual part of the body, are welded right to the body floor, and get part of their rigidity from that floor. And notice the shape of the floor itself. Although some of the contours are shaped to accommodate parts of the running gear, other creases or beads are for strengthening. Of course, one of the big three manufacturers has attempted to unitize its body construction this year by making an all-welded piece of the body side pillars and panels. Although this helps, it can't allow the frame and body to strengthen each other like all-welded one-piece construction for one simple reason. The body and frame are still separate units and only bolted together. Bolted connections are not, cannot be, as rigid as welded construction. To avoid squeaks, bolts must be mounted in rubber, or a rubber shim must be placed between the body and frame at each body support position. And of course, you can't have rigidity or strength when you're substituting rubber for welded steel. It's impossible. But let's see another big difference that you and your prospect can see. The construction of the front door pillar, the structural member that must support the whole windshield area. Notice how heavy, how strong this is. It's no wonder that with the wraparound windshield, the 55 Nash body is stronger than in any previous year. As a matter of fact, in torsional tests, the 1955 Nash body is 40% stronger than the 1955 Buick body. With so much less support at this vital point, many buyers of competitive cars have had good reason to worry about the strength of their cars in the windshield area. You know, if it were possible for you to personally escort each prospect through the famous Nash body plant and see the strength and safety being built into these bodies, your selling job would be far easier. But since that isn't possible, the next best thing is to make sure your prospect knows that this is a different kind of body, different from all the rest. And the best way to do that is to point to body details, talk about body safety, strength, and ride benefits at every point on the car. Show him the things he otherwise might not notice. When you've done that, get him out on the road. Only in the demonstration ride can he fully sense the satisfaction that the strength and safety of this superior type of body can give him. Only in the actual feel, in driving on smooth and rough roads, in cornering and recovering from turns, can the superiority of the Nash deep coil ride be proved. Only this way will your prospect know and want what you already know so well, that the Nash double-strength single-unit body is truly and completely the world's safest and finest automobile body. The body that makes the big difference.